Hello everyone, this is Teddy Sagun, and today we are going to learn something new and something catchy that will surely interest you. So what we mean by classicism? Where did classicism originated? Who are the significant artists and what are the most salient features of artworks during that time? Classicism refers generally to a high regard for a classical period, classical antiquity in the Western tradition, as setting standards for taste which the classicists seek to emulate. The term classicism is used to describe art that makes reference to ancient Greek or Roman style. On the other hand, the terms classic or classical came into use in the 17th century to describe the arts and culture of the ancient civilizations of Greece and Rome. It is principles of these ancient civilizations in art, architecture, and literature. It's generally associated with harmony and restraint, and obedience to recognized standards of form and craftsmanship. Classicism dominated Western art with classical mythology, consisting of the various myths and legends of the ancient Greek and Roman gods and heroes, becoming a major source of subject matter for history painting. Classicism is a cultural movement developed during the second half of the 18th century that was strongly influenced by the classical cultures of Rome and Greece. This movement expressed the desire to impose sovereignty on humanity in order to control not only emotion but also visceral impulses of people, diminishing everything that referred to human beings to monotony and banal perfectionism. In its purest form, classicism is an aesthetic attitude dependent on principles based in the culture, art, and literature of ancient Greece and Rome, with the emphasis on form, simplicity, proportion, clarity of structure, perfection, restrained emotion, as well as explicit appeal to the intellect. Emphasis on form has three elements of art, which is color, value, and texture that are useful in creating emphasis through contrast. Using texture in only one spot or placing a light object in an otherwise dark environment will attract the attention of the viewer. Simplicity, or also known as visual economy or minimal design, is omitting all non-essential or unimportant elements and details which don't really contribute to the essence of the overall composition in order to emphasize what is important. Proportion is a relation based on size between parts or objects within a composition. It should not be confused with scale, which defines relation between different artworks and their sizes. Clarity of structure is a clearness or lucidity as to perception or understanding, freedom from indistinctness or ambiguity. It is the state or quality of being clear or transparent to the eye. Perfection is quality or state of being perfect or complete, so that nothing requisite is wanting, entire development, consummate culture, skill, or moral excellence. Considering how various Roman forms of fear, dismay, indignation, and revulsion created an economy of displeasure that shaped society in constructive ways. The book casts new light both on the Romans and on cross-cultural understanding of emotions, appealing to or engaging the intellect, intellectual pursuits, or intellectual powers, as possessing or showing intellect or mental capacity, especially to a high degree. Classical painting. Here, we have a fascinating canvas of Jacques Louis David, The Death of Marat. It became one of the most famous images of blood-soaked French Revolution and the apex of the master. The history of this painful masterpiece even more colorful than its color palette. a picture paints a horrible political assassination. Journalist and radical leader of the Jacobins, Jean-Paul Marat, would never see the outcome of his brainchild, the French Revolution, July 13, 1793. 50-year-old political figure was murdered. 24-year-old Charlotte Corday, which propaganda exposed a supporter of the Girondins. Jupiter and Thetis by Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres. Ingres is a thesis that summed up the internship in Rome, where he was sent by the Paris Academy of Fine Arts. He strove to make the picture as gracious and pleasing to God as possible, explaining that she should smell ambrosia a mile away. Ingres sent the final parcel, as they call his works, sent from Rome to Paris as part of an internship, to the salon. The idea of large-scale paintings, Sabine visited by Jacques-Louis David when he was in prison. Painter of the Revolution, recently signing with other members of the convention the death sentence to Louis XVI, and then headed to the Louvre, and with it the entire artistic life of France. After the fall of the Jacobin dictatorship, he was a victim locked up in a prison awaiting imminent execution. But David was acquitted, although it had little hope. His wife, Charlotte Pecul, which went from the artist as soon as he learned that David was among those who decided to execute the king, did everything possible and impossible to her husband, though the former escaped the guillotine. Portrait of Madame Riviere. One of the cycle of images of the Riviera by Ingres. In fact, the painting of portraits was considered by the maestro, let's say a hack. Money has to be earned with something. Obviously, the customers of his work in this genre rated him higher than himself, and Baudelaire generally believed that Ingres is the only person in France who can truly paint portraits. Seated Baiter. One of the parcels which Ingres sent from Rome to the Paris Academy of Fine Arts as a report about internship. This poem of the female body embodied the perfection of a female back. Its back was a passion, and it is unlikely we'll call someone who portrayed women back so perfect, and with such deification. There is a version that Baiter defected to the waist. It is a sketch for sitting Baiter. Nude is one of the favorite subjects of classicists. The novelty of this picture is that it is nude in the genre. Some researchers even believe the Baiter of Balpicon, the first painting, where the nude had appeared in the framework of genre. Classical sculpture. Polycletus, the Doryphorus, cast in Pushkin Museum, Moscow. The original in marble was found in the Palestra Sanitica in Pompeii, and is now in the Museo Archeologico in Naples. Paris or Perseus. Pythias workshop, reclining Dionysus from Parthenon East pediment. And lastly, Aphrodite Braski. Classical architecture. Caryatides on the Erechtheion, Athens, is an example of a Greek architectural element taken up by later classical architecture. The fronts of ancient Roman temples like the Maison Kea in Nimes have inspired much later classical architecture. Example of this is Virginia State Capitol. Lorsch Abbey Gatehouse. It's an example of the architectural style of the short-lived Carolingian Renaissance, a first classical movement in architecture. Thank you everyone for listening to my presentation, and I hope you learned something new from this video. Goodbye for now.